So, what if I told you that one of the most successful books ever written, a book that's been translated into over 80 languages and has sold millions and millions of copies, was at first a complete and total failure? We're talking about The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's a story that became this global phenomenon, but man, it almost didn't happen at all.
I mean, its influence is just massive. You've got everyone from world leaders like Bill Clinton to huge cultural icons like Madonna and Will Smith praising this book. They all see it as this powerful guide for chasing down your dreams. And as Tony Robbins says here, it's really about claiming the life you are meant to live.
But this incredible success story, this book that's inspired so many people, it did not start out that way. Not even close.
Take a look at this number, 2. That is the total number of copies The Alchemist sold in the first 6 months after it came out in Brazil. Yep, just 2. And to make it even worse, both copies were bought by the exact same person.
It was such a spectacular flop that the original publisher just gave up. They literally canceled the contract and handed the rights right back to the author, Paulo Coelho. At this point, he's 41 years old, and in his own words, he felt completely desperate. The book that would go on to change millions of lives was basically dead on arrival. So, what do you do? What do you do when your dream project just crashes and burns like that? Well, this is where it gets interesting. Coelho did something pretty remarkable. He just refused to give up because he realized he was actually living the central message of his own book.
He saw his own struggle not as a failure, but as part of the journey. He was the hero of his own story, you know? And his quest was to realize his treasure, which for him was his ability to write. And this right here brings us to the core idea of the entire book. It's the engine that makes the whole story run.
So what is this personal legend he's talking about? Well, the book basically defines it as your true calling, your ultimate mission on Earth. It's this idea that when we're young, we all know what our dream is. But as we get older, life happens, fear creeps in, doubt convinces us it's just impossible.
And this is where Coelho's genius really shines. He doesn't explore this big, profound idea with some complex philosophy. No, he does it through a simple, beautiful fable, the story of a young shepherd boy whose journey perfectly mirrors the author's and, in a way, all of ours.
So we meet Santiago. He's a young shepherd out in the fields of Andalusia in Spain. And his life is, well, it's pretty simple. It's predictable, it's comfortable, he's got his flock, he has food, he has shelter, he has everything he really needs. He's safe. But then something starts to disrupt that comfort. He keeps having the same dream over and over again. It's a vision of a hidden treasure just waiting for him thousands of miles away, right at the foot of the Egyptian pyramids. And right here, he faces the choice that we all face at some point, right? It's the choice between the life he knows, the safety of his sheep, the familiar fields, and the complete, total unknown, the terrifying but also thrilling possibility of chasing his personal legend. Now, as he's wrestling with this huge decision, a mysterious old man just kind of appears out of nowhere. He says his name is Melchizedek, the king of Salem, and he offers Santiago 2 pieces of wisdom that are going to change absolutely everything. First, the king just completely dismantles the biggest excuse we all use. He tells Santiago that the idea that you're just a victim of your circumstances, that you have no real control over your destiny, that is the world's greatest lie. He insists that you always have the power to choose your path. Okay, so if you do choose the path, how do you find your way? The king tells him to follow the omens. Now, these aren't some kind of magic trick. They're signs from the universe. A butterfly that appears at the right moment, a chance conversation that are guiding you. You just have to learn how to read the language. And before he leaves, the king tells Santiago this quick story. A boy has to carry a spoon with 2 drops of oil through this beautiful palace. A wise man tells him the secret to happiness is to see all the wonders of the palace, but without ever spilling the oil. The message is kind of a warning. Yeah, go pursue your dream, but don't get so distracted you lose sight of what's important right in front of you. So, Santiago is inspired. He makes his choice. He does the unthinkable. He sells his entire flock of sheep, his whole livelihood, his identity, his comfort, and he uses all that money to buy a ticket to go find a treasure he saw in a dream. And his journey begins immediately.
He crosses the Strait of Gibraltar and lands in Tangier, and all of a sudden, he is a total stranger in a strange land. He doesn't know the customs, he can't speak the language, it's all new and completely overwhelming. Almost right away, he meets a young guy who speaks his language and offers to be his guide to the pyramids. Santiago, feeling relieved and pretty desperate for help, hands over every last bit of money he has from selling his sheep. His entire fortune is now in this stranger's hands. As they're walking through a crowded market, Santiago spots the most beautiful sword he has ever seen. He's just captivated by it, and for just a few seconds, he takes his eyes off his guide, off his money, off his goal. He completely forgets about the oil on the spoon. And in that one single moment of distraction, his guide vanishes into the crowd, taking every last coin with him. Santiago is left completely alone, penniless, in a foreign country, with no way home and no way to move forward. His dream just collapsed on the very first day. And that's a moment of truth, isn't it? For Santiago, for Paulo Coelho, really, for any of us. When you risk everything for a dream and your very first step ends in absolute catastrophe, what you do in that moment of despair is what really defines the rest of your journey. So what would you do?